The morning sun rose over Viridian Prime like it had for thousands of years before. The plant-like beings moved slowly through their crystal gardens, tending to the food crops that fed their peaceful world. Their green skin caught the light as they worked, content in their simple lives. They had never known war. They had never needed weapons. Violence was something they read about in old galactic histories, something that happened to other species in distant places. Bloom of Dawn stretched her tall, thin body toward the warming rays. As chief administrator of the main settlement, she spent her days solving small problems. Which fields needed more water? Which families needed bigger homes? Where to build the next school for their seedlings? These were good problems to have. She was checking the morning reports when the sky began to burn. The first ship appeared as a dark spot against the blue sky. Then another, then dozens more. They were massive, black against the sun, casting shadows across the peaceful farms below. The ships had sharp edges and weapon ports that looked like hungry mouths. "What are those?" whispered Root of Peace, her assistant. His young voice shook as more ships filled the sky. Bloom of Dawn had seen pictures of warships in the galactic database. These looked worse than anything in those old files.
"Get everyone inside," she said, trying to keep her voice calm.
"Send word to all settlements. Something is wrong." The attack began without warning. Red beams of light shot down from the ships above. Where they touched the ground, everything died. The crystal gardens melted into slag. The beautiful homes turned to ash. The carefully tended fields became craters of burning earth. The Viridians ran. They had nowhere to go and nothing to fight with, so they ran. Parents carried their seedlings. Elders helped each other move as fast as their old roots could carry them. Behind them, their world burned. Bloom of Dawn reached the communication center as the first building exploded nearby. The blast threw her against the wall and green blood ran down her bark-like skin. She pulled herself up and activated the emergency transmitter. "This is Viridian Prime calling for help." She broadcast on all galactic channels. "We are under attack. We have no weapons, no defenses. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need help." The response came quickly. Not help, but something much worse. A cold voice spoke through the communicator. The words came in the common galactic language, but the accent was harsh and strange. "This is Admiral Vex of the HFY War Fleet. Your world now belongs to us. Stop your transmissions and surrender." "We surrender," Bloom of Dawn said quickly. "We surrender. Please stop the bombing." "No," said Admiral Vex. "Your species is weak. Weak species do not deserve to live. We will take your world and remove you from it. This is how the galaxy works." The bombing got worse. Bloom of Dawn watched through the windows as her people died. The hegemony soldiers were landing now, hunting down anyone who tried to hide. They moved in gray armor that made them look like metal insects. They killed everything they found, even the small animals that lived in the gardens. She tried calling for help again. This time she reached the Altair Federation. "We are sorry," said a tired voice. "The hegemony is too strong. We cannot help you. We wish you peace in your final moments." The next call reached the Orion Council. "The hegemony has legal claim to expand their territory," they said. "We cannot interfere with their internal affairs." More calls. More polite refusals. The galaxy was full of civilized species who were very sorry, but could not risk making the hegemony angry. They offered prayers and kind words, but no ships, no weapons, no hope outside the killing continued. The hegemony soldiers moved through the streets like they were cleaning up trash. They burned the libraries full of peaceful poetry. They destroyed the art centers where Viridian children learned to make beautiful things. They killed the healers who tried to help the wounded. "Any sentient species capable of rendering aid," Bloom of Dawn broadcast again, her voice breaking. "Our world dies. The hegemony shows no mercy. Our children wither in the flames. Please, someone, anyone." Most of the galaxy ignored her final plea. But in a dark sector of space that most civilized species avoided, something heard her call. The response came from a place marked only as Sol System in the galactic database. The world was listed as Terra with a red warning, symbol that meant dangerous, do not approach. Most species thought it was some kind of industrial accident or toxic waste. Dump. The voice that answered was different from all the others. It was calm but hard, like metal that had been heated and hammered into a blade. "This is Terra Control to Viridian Prime. We have received your distress call. Coordinates locked. Deployment authorized. At a 72 standard hours, thank you, Bloom of Dawn whispered. She did not know what deployment meant, but at least someone was coming. What are your current losses? Asked the Terran voice. Bloom of Dawn looked out at her burning world. Half our people are dead. Maybe more. The hegemony says they will kill us all and take our planet. There was a long pause. When the Terran spoke again, his voice was colder than space itself. Understood. Be advised. Terran forces do not take prisoners when responding to genocide. Mark your positions and stay down. We are coming. The transmission ended. Bloom of Dawn stared at the communicator. She did not understand what the human had meant about prisoners, but something in his voice made her feel afraid and hopeful at the same time. Outside, Admiral Vex's ships continued to burn her world. The gray soldiers kept killing her people, but somewhere in the dark something was coming. Something from a place called Terra, from beings who called themselves human. She did not know that her call for help had reached the most feared classification in the galactic database. She did not know that Terra was marked as a death world, home to creatures so violent that other species avoided their entire sector of space. She did not know that humans did not just answer distress calls. They answered them with extreme prejudice. All she knew was that her people were dying, and someone was finally coming to help. She just hoped they would arrive in time to save someone. The space above Viridian Prime was quiet when the first human ship arrived. It did not announce itself with bright lights or fancy signals. It simply appeared from the dark between stars like a predator stepping from shadows. Admiral Kang. Deho stood on the bridge of the dreadnought, Soul's Vengeance, and watched the enemy fleet through the main screen. 47 hegemony ships hung in orbit around the burning planet below. They were arranged in perfect formation, confident and careless. They thought they owned this space. Sir, enemy fleet detected, reported Commander Park Min-soo from his tactical station. 47 ships. Mix of battleships, cruisers, and destroyers. They haven't noticed us yet. Kang nodded slowly. The human fleet had jumped in behind Viridian Prime's largest moon, hidden from enemy sensors. 12 ships against 47. Most admirals would call those terrible odds. Kang called them a good start. Full stealth mode, he ordered. All ships silent running. Weapons hot but hold fire. Let them see us when we want them to. The bridge crew worked quietly. These were veterans of the Terran Defense Corps, men and women who had fought in the Outer Colony Wars. They knew how to kill efficiently and without mercy. More importantly, they knew how to make the enemy afraid. Sir, said Communications Officer Bae Sung-ho, receiving transmission from the planet's surface. It's the Viridian administrator who sent the distress call. She's still alive. Put her through. The voice that came through the speakers was weak and scared. Terran ships, is that you? Please, they're killing everyone. There are so few of us left. Kang's face remained calm, but his eyes grew colder. This is Admiral Kang Dae-ho of the Terran Defense Corps. We are here. Mark your positions and keep your people underground. We will handle this. How many ships do you have? She asked. The hegemony has so many. Enough, Kang said simply. He cut the transmission and turned to his tactical officer. Commander Park, how long to get into position? Park checked his screens. 20 minutes to optimal firing position, sir. All ships report ready. Good, signal the fleet. Message reads, remember the Geneva Conventions do not apply to alien genocidal forces. Rules of engagement, total destruction. No quarter asked or given. The human fleet moved like wolves surrounding prey. They spread out in a formation that looked random but was carefully planned. Each ship knew exactly where to be and when to be there. The hegemony finally noticed them. Unknown fleet, identify yourselves, came the broadcast from the enemy flagship. Admiral Vex's voice was arrogant and annoyed. You are interfering with lawful hegemony expansion operations. Kang smiled. It was not a nice smile. This is Admiral Kang Dae-ho of the Terran Defense Corps. You have exactly 60 seconds to cease all hostile actions against Viridian Prime and withdraw your forces. This is your only warning, the enemy admiral laughed. The sound echoed across all communication channels. Terran? I have never heard of your pathetic species. You have 12 ships against my 47. Withdraw now or be destroyed. Negative, Kang replied. You are conducting genocide against a peaceful species. This ends now. You cannot stop us, alien fool. I have the strongest fleet in this sector. You had the strongest fleet, Kang corrected. All ships execute Alpha Strike. Fire at will. The human fleet opened fire. The hegemony had expected a normal space battle, Ships flying in formation, trading beam weapons fire, fighting by the accepted rules of galactic warfare. They expected a long, slow fight where the larger fleet would eventually win. They got something very different. The humans did not fight fair. They did not follow the accepted rules. They fought like the apex predators of a death world, using every advantage they could find. Captain Lee Sojin's destroyer squadron hit the enemy flanks with torpedoes that were not just weapons, but psychological warfare. The missiles did not simply explode. They tore enemy ships apart slowly, giving the crews time to scream before they died. Lieutenant Kim Tae-woo coordinated targeting from the Soul's vengeance. He did not aim for quick kills. He aimed for maximum terror. Enemy ships lost their engines first, leaving them helpless. Then their weapons. Then their life support. The crews had time to send desperate calls for help before the final strike came. Enemy flagship is trying to retreat, reported Commander Park. Negative, Kang said. No one leaves until they are all dead. Target their jump drives first. The human ships moved through the enemy formation like sharks through fish. They did not just destroy the hegemony fleet. They hunted each ship individually, making sure every enemy vessel was completely destroyed before moving to the next target. Admiral Vex's voice came through the communications again, no longer arrogant. Wait, we can negotiate. We can share the planet. There is room for both our species. You said weak species do not deserve to live, Kang replied. You were right. The weak should not survive. We surrender. Please, we surrender. You told the Viridians that surrender was not acceptable. I agree, no quarter. The battle lasted 37 minutes. When it was over, there were no hegemony ships left. Not damaged ships, not retreating ships, no ships at all. Just expanding clouds of debris and the screams of dying soldiers that quickly faded into the vacuum of space. On the planet below, the surviving Viridians watched through their shelter windows as the burning rain of enemy ship parts fell from the sky like metal snow. The orbital bombardment had stopped. The killing had stopped, but somehow they did not feel safe. They felt afraid. The human ships moved into orbit around their world with mechanical precision. These were not the elegant vessels of the Federation or the artistic ships of the Council races. These were tools built for one purpose, killing things very efficiently. Viridian Prime, this is Admiral Kang, came the calm voice from space. Enemy fleet destroyed. We are beginning ground operations to eliminate remaining hostile forces. Keep your people underground until we signal all clear. Bloom of Dawn keyed her communicator with a shaking hand. Thank you. Thank you for saving us. This is what we do, Kang replied. But as the first human dropships screamed down through the atmosphere like falling meteors, Bloom of Dawn began to wonder what kind of beings they had called for help. The humans had destroyed a fleet of 47 ships with only 12 of their own. They had done it quickly and without mercy. What kind of species could do that? And what did they want in return for their help? She was about to find out. Major Yoon Ji-hae felt the familiar pull of gravity as her drop pod screamed through Viridian Prime's atmosphere. Around her, 49 other pods fell like burning stars toward the planet's surface. The first orbital drop division was going to war. Through the small window, she could see the hegemony ground forces spread across the continent below. Gray armored soldiers moved between the burning cities, hunting down the last Viridian survivors. They thought they owned this world now. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 2 minutes to touchdown, she announced over the squad channel. Remember your briefings. The enemy has shown no mercy to civilians. We will show them the same courtesy they showed the locals. Sergeant Choi Hyun-woo checked his assault rifle one last time. What are our rules of engagement, Major? Simple, Yoon replied. If it's wearing gray armor and it's not surrendering, kill it. If it is surrendering, kill it anyway. These are genocidal forces. They do not deserve the protection of civilized rules. The pod hit the ground hard, throwing up dirt and debris. The doors blew open with explosive charges, and the human soldiers poured out into the devastated landscape. They moved with deadly purpose, spreading out in a pattern that looked random but was actually a carefully designed killing field. The first hegemony. Patrol found them 20 minutes later. The aliens in their gray armor moved like they owned the battlefield. They had been hunting defenseless plant creatures for days. They expected more of the same easy prey. Instead, they walked into a nightmare. Corporal Kim Min-ho took the first shot from 300 meters away. His rifle made almost no sound, but the lead hegemony soldier's head exploded in a spray of blue blood. The others in the patrol spun around, confused and frightened. They never saw the humans coming. Sergeant Choi and his squad hit them from the left flank. Private Lee Dong-hyun came from the right. They moved through the enemy patrol like ghosts, appearing just long enough to kill before vanishing again. In less than 2 minutes, 12 hegemony soldiers were dead. "This is too easy," muttered Private Nam Soo-jin as she reloaded her weapon. "These things fight like amateurs." "They've been hunting civilians," Major Yoon said over the comm. "They forgot what real soldiers look like. Let's remind them." The human advance continued. They did not move in straight lines or follow predictable patterns. They flowed across the landscape like water, finding every weakness in the enemy defenses and exploiting it ruthlessly. The hegemony had numerical advantage. They had fortified positions. They had heavy weapons and air support. None of it mattered. Captain Lee So-jin coordinated the orbital strikes from her destroyer in space. When hegemony forces tried to group together for defense, she dropped kinetic rounds on them from orbit. The tungsten rods fell from the sky faster than bullets, turning enemy strongholds into craters of molten metal. "Enemy air support is moving to intercept our ground forces," reported her weapons officer. "Launch interceptors," Lee ordered. "Show them how we handle air-to-air combat." The human fighters that launched from her ship were small and fast, built more like guided missiles than traditional aircraft. They swarmed the hegemony air units like angry wasps, using tactics that seemed impossible to counter. Lieutenant Park Young-ho piloted his fighter through a cloud of enemy fire without taking a single hit. He was not trying to win an honorable dogfight. He was trying to kill as many enemies as possible as quickly as possible. His missiles found their targets with ruthless precision, and each hit was designed for maximum psychological impact. The hegemony pilots began to panic. They had never fought an enemy that used fear as a weapon. Their formations broke apart as they tried to retreat, making them even easier targets for the human pilots. On the ground, the human advance reached the main hegemony base. The enemy commanders had built their fortifications according to standard military doctrine. High walls, overlapping fields of fire, multiple defensive layers. It should have been able to hold off an army. It lasted 18 minutes against the human assault. Major Yoon did not attack the base head-on. Instead, she used the hegemony's own tactics against them. She surrounded the base and began hunting the defenders one by one, using their fortifications as a trap to keep them contained. Sergeant Choi led a squad through the base's water treatment facility. The hegemony had not expected anyone to attack through the sewers. When his team emerged inside the main compound, the enemy soldiers were completely surprised. "Remember," Choi told his soldiers as they moved through the base, "these creatures were killing children an hour ago. They deserve no mercy and they will receive none." The humans moved through the base like a plague. They did not just capture positions. They made sure every enemy soldier was completely eliminated before moving on. When they found hegemony soldiers who had barricaded themselves in buildings, they did not try to negotiate surrender. They burned the buildings down. Private Yuhana found a group of hegemony officers trying to hide in an underground bunker. They held up their hands and babbled about surrender in their alien language. She looked at the screens showing their orbital bombardment of civilian targets, then emptied her rifle's magazine into them. "Base secured," Major Yoon reported to Orbital Command. "All hostile forces eliminated. Beginning search for survivors. Any prisoners?" asked Admiral Kang from his ship. "Negative, sir. No prisoners were taken." "Good, continue sweep and clear operations. I want every square meter of this continent checked. If there are any hegemony forces left alive, I want them dead." The sweep took another 4 hours. The humans moved across the landscape with mechanical efficiency, hunting down the last scattered enemy soldiers. They used sensors, drones, and old-fashioned tracking skills to find every hidden hegemony trooper. By sunset, there were no living hegemony forces left on Viridian Prime. The surviving Viridians came out of their hiding places slowly, afraid of what they might find. The humans had saved them, but the way they had done it was terrifying. There had been no mercy, no prisoners, no quarter given to the enemy. Bloom of Dawn met Major Yoon at the ruins of the capital city's central plaza. The human officer was cleaning her weapon, her face calm and professional. Behind her, human soldiers were stacking hegemony equipment in neat piles for disposal. "Thank you," Bloom of Dawn said carefully. You saved our people. Major Yoon looked up at the tall plant-like being. This is what we do. The enemy has been eliminated. Your world is secure. All of them? You killed all of them? Affirmative. Genocidal forces do not deserve to live. We made sure they will never threaten anyone again. Bloom of Dawn stared at the human. The woman spoke of mass killing like she was discussing the weather. Behind her, other human soldiers moved through the city with the same calm efficiency, checking every building and clearing every street. What happens now? Bloom of Dawn asked. Major Yoon smiled. It was not a reassuring expression. Now we make sure this never happens again. Welcome to the Terran Protection Zone. 3 weeks after the last hegemony soldier died, Bloom of Dawn watched human construction teams build a military base where her people's main temple used to stand. The massive concrete structure rose from the ground like a gray tumor, bristling with weapon systems and sensor arrays. Colonel Nam Yu-jin supervised the construction from a portable command center. The human officer was tall and thin, with cold eyes that seemed to see everything. She spoke the Viridian language perfectly, which somehow made her more frightening instead of more friendly. Colonel Nam. Bloom of Dawn approached carefully. My people are grateful for your protection, but we are wondering when your forces will be leaving our world. Nam looked up from her tactical display. Leaving? We're not leaving. This world is now under permanent Terran protection. That protection requires a permanent military presence, but the enemy is gone. You killed them all. Why do you need to stay? Because other enemies will come, Nam explained patiently like she was talking to a child. The hegemony was not the only predator species in the galaxy. There are others. Pirates, slavers, conquerors. They will learn that Viridian Prime was successfully defended, and they will want to test our resolve. Bloom of Dawn's leaves rustled with worry. We never asked for permanent protection. We just wanted help with the immediate threat. Colonel Nam smiled. It was a cold expression that never reached her eyes. You called for help. We answered. This is how Terran protection works. We don't just drive off the current threat. We make sure the threat never comes back. Behind her, human engineers were installing massive gun turrets that could reach into orbit. Other teams were building underground bunkers connected by tunnels that ran beneath the entire city. The humans were turning Viridian Prime into a fortress. What do you want from us in return? Bloom of Dawn asked. Compliance, Nam said simply. Follow Terran protection protocols. Report any suspicious activity. Allow our patrols unrestricted access to all areas of your world. Simple requirements for simple people. Dr. Han Ray, the fleet's xenobiologist, was studying the Viridian survivors in a field hospital the humans had built. She documented their injuries, their psychological trauma, and their growing fear of their so-called protectors. Interesting, she noted in her report to Terran Command. Subject shows classic symptoms of survivor trauma, but also exhibits anxiety responses when interacting with human personnel. Despite being rescued from extinction, the subject appears to fear the rescuers almost as much as they feared the original threat. She interviewed Root of Peace, Bloom of Dawn's young assistant. The Viridian trembled when she asked him about the human military operations. They killed all of them, he whispered. Every single enemy soldier. They hunted them down like animals and killed them without mercy. They did it to save us, but what kind of beings can kill so easily? Effective beings, Han replied, making notes. Your people are alive because humans can do what your species cannot. But at what cost? We see how they look at us. Like we are weak. Like we are pets that need protection. Is this what freedom looks like? Han studied the young Viridian carefully. You are free from extinction. That is the only freedom that matters. Communications Officer Bae Sung-ho monitored all transmissions from the system. His job was to intercept any communications that might indicate new threats or resistance to Terran control. What he found was even more interesting. Sir, he reported to Admiral Kang, I'm picking up transmissions from across hegemony space. Word is spreading about what happened here. What kind of word? Bae played back the intercepted communications. Alien voices spoke in dozens of languages, all saying the same thing. The humans were monsters. Killers without mercy, a species that responded to any aggression with total annihilation. They're calling us the Terran Devils, Bae reported. Several hegemony worlds are requesting immediate evacuation of their military forces. They're afraid we'll target them next. Admiral Kang nodded with satisfaction. Good, fear is an excellent deterrent. The more afraid they are, the less likely they are to attack peaceful worlds. What about the other galactic powers? The Federation and the Council races? What about them? They're getting nervous about our expansion. 3 more worlds have requested Terran protection in the last week. The galactic community is worried about our growing influence. Kang studied the star charts on his main screen. Red markers showed worlds under Terran protection. Green markers showed worlds that had requested protection. Yellow markers showed potential trouble spots where peaceful species might be threatened. Let them worry, he said finally. If they were doing their jobs properly, peaceful species wouldn't need to call us for help. Back on Viridian Prime, the changes continued. Human patrols walked through the cities every day, their weapons visible and their faces hidden behind tactical masks. They were polite but distant, treating the Viridians like valuable property that needed protection. Bloom of Dawn tried to maintain some semblance of local government, but every decision had to be approved by Colonel Nam's staff. When she wanted to relocate refugees from the destroyed eastern settlements, the humans said no. The strategic value of those locations was too high. When she wanted to rebuild the universities that had been destroyed in the bombing, the humans said yes, but only if the curriculum included mandatory courses on threat assessment and cooperation with protective forces. This is not freedom, she told Root of Peace one evening as they walked through the city. This is another kind of prison. But we're alive, he replied. A few weeks ago we were all going to die. Now we're alive. That has to count for something, does it? Look around you. Human soldiers on every corner. Human weapons pointed at the sky. Human rules for everything we do. We called for help and they sent us control instead. The young Viridian looked at the human patrols moving through the streets. What choice do we have? If we ask them to leave, will they go? Bloom of Dawn had no answer. She suspected the humans would not leave even if asked. They had decided that Viridian Prime needed protection, and they were going to provide it whether the Viridians wanted it or not. That night, she tried to contact other worlds that had been protected by the humans. The communications were monitored, of course. Everything was monitored now. The responses she received were all similar. The humans had saved them from various threats. Pirates, raiders, aggressive neighbors. But the price of that salvation was submission to human authority. The protected worlds were safe, but they were no longer truly free. This is the new reality, Colonel Nam told her when she complained about the monitoring. Safety requires sacrifice. Freedom is meaningless if you're dead. But what kind of life is this? A living one, Nam replied. Which is more than you would have had without our intervention. Bloom of Dawn stared out at her world, now covered with human military installations. The skies were safe from attack, but they were also full of human patrol ships. The cities were secure, but they were also under constant surveillance. The humans had kept their promise. They had answered her distress call and saved her people from extinction. But she was beginning to understand that Terran help came with strings attached. Very strong strings that might never be cut. 6 months after the Viridian incident, the galaxy had learned to fear the name Terra. Admiral Kwok Jin Ho commanded the Terran protection fleet from his flagship, the Busan's Fury, as it patrolled the expanding network of human-controlled space. The fleet had grown. What started as 12 ships responding to a single distress call was now 47 vessels spread across dozens of star systems. Each ship carried the same message painted on its hull in multiple galactic languages. Harm the innocent, face extinction. Sir, incoming distress call, reported Communications Officer Ryu Haiwan from her station. Source is the Kalos system. Species designation: aquatic peaceful traders. They're reporting pirate attacks on their shipping lanes. Admiral Kwok studied the star chart. Kalos was 3 jumps away, well within the expanding Terran protection zone. What's the threat assessment? Pirates are using modified military vessels. Approximately 20 ships. They've been raiding Kalos merchant convoys for 2 months. Local authorities are unable to respond effectively. Standard protocol, Kwok ordered. Signal the fleet. We respond in force. No survivors among the hostile forces. Captain Oh Dong-min received the orders aboard his patrol vessel, Inchen's Wrath. His crew had become experts at what they called pest control, the systematic elimination of any force that threatened peaceful species under Terran protection. Another distress call, another extermination mission. his weapons officer commented as they prepared for the jump to hyperspace. "This is what we do," O replied. "Someone has to keep the predators in check." The jump to Kalos took 18 hours. When the Terran fleet arrived, they found the pirates in the middle of attacking another merchant convoy. The raiders had disabled 2 cargo ships and were preparing to board them when the human vessels dropped out of hyperspace. The pirates tried to run. They had learned about the Terran devils from other criminal organizations. Stories of human ruthlessness had spread through the underworld like a plague. Entire pirate fleets had simply vanished after attacking worlds under Terran protection. But running from humans was like running from death itself, possible in theory, impossible in practice. Captain O's ship caught the first pirate vessel as it tried to jump to hyperspace. His crew disabled its engines with surgical precision, leaving it helpless in space. Then they moved on to the next target while the disabled ship's crew screamed for mercy over the communication channels. "Please, we surrender," the pirate captain broadcast. "We'll return the stolen goods. We'll pay reparations. Please don't kill us." O opened a channel to the pirate ship. "You were given the same chance to surrender that you gave your victims. The same mercy you showed to innocent merchants. We never killed any of them. We just took their cargo. Irrelevant. You threatened peaceful beings under Terran protection. The penalty is death." The torpedo strike was quick and clean. The pirate ship vanished in a brief flash of light. The other raiders scattered in panic, but the human fleet hunted them down one by one with methodical efficiency. None escaped. The Kalos traders watched from their damaged ships as the humans eliminated every pirate vessel in the system. When it was over, Admiral Kwok contacted the merchant convoy directly. "This is Admiral Kwok of the Terran Protection Fleet. All hostile forces have been eliminated. Your shipping lanes are now under permanent Terran patrol. This system is designated as a protected trade route." The aquatic beings were grateful, of course. They thanked the humans repeatedly and offered to pay for their protection services. Admiral Kwok politely declined payment, but established a monitoring station in their system and assigned permanent patrol vessels to guard their space. The Kalos were free to trade in safety. They were also free to follow Terran regulations about shipping schedules, cargo manifests, and approved trade routes. Freedom, as the humans defined it, came with structure. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council convened another emergency session to discuss the human problem. The great powers of the galaxy gathered in their magnificent council chambers, trying to find a solution to the growing Terran influence. They've established military bases on 17 worlds in the past 6 months, reported the Altair Federation representative. Each one is stronger than most planetary defense forces. They're creating an empire built on protection, countered the Orion delegate. Every world they've occupied called for help first. They didn't conquer anyone, didn't they? Look at the Viridian reports. The humans saved them from extinction, then installed a permanent military occupation. The Viridians can't make any major decisions without human approval. But they're alive, the Centauri observer noted. Without human intervention, they would all be dead. Perhaps some freedom is an acceptable price for continued existence. The debate continued for hours, but no solutions emerged. The humans had broken no galactic laws. They responded only to direct requests for help. They never attacked first and never targeted civilian populations. By every legal standard, they were model galactic citizens. They were also the most feared species in known space. Commander Ryu, Haiwan filed her monthly report from the bridge of the Busan's Fury. The statistics painted a clear picture of Terran expansion. 43 worlds under direct protection, 37 shipping routes under patrol, 12 permanent naval bases, and an estimated 2 million alien lives saved from various threats. The cost of this protection was equally clear. Zero tolerance for resistance, complete submission to human authority, and the gradual transformation of every protected world into a military outpost designed to defend itself and its neighbors. "Sir," she reported to Admiral Kwok, "intelligence indicates that several hostile species are abandoning their expansion plans. The hegemony has recalled all military forces to their core worlds. The raider clans have suspended operations in this entire sector." "Excellent. Fear is the most effective deterrent. What about the council races? They're organizing some kind of diplomatic response to our expansion." Kwok studied the tactical displays showing human fleet positions across the galaxy. Each red marker represented a fortress built from a former victim's gratitude. Each protected world was a statement of human intent. Let them organize, he said finally. Diplomacy is for species that have something to negotiate. We don't negotiate with predators, and we don't need permission to protect the innocent. Back on Viridian Prime, Bloom of Dawn stood in what used to be her office. The building was now part of the Terran Administrative Complex, and her official title was Local Liaison Officer, rather than Chief Administrator. Her people were alive and safe, but they lived under rules they had never chosen. A young Viridian approached her desk with a request to travel to a neighboring system for trade negotiations. She had to forward the request to the human authorities for approval. She knew they would say yes, it was good for the local economy, but the approval would come with conditions, escorts and monitoring. Administrator, the young Viridian said quietly, is this what freedom looks like? Bloom of Dawn looked out the window at the human patrol ships moving through the sky. They were beautiful in their own way, sleek and deadly, symbols of perfect protection, but they were also chains, invisible but unbreakable. No, she said honestly, this is what survival looks like. Freedom was what we had before the hegemony came. This is what we have instead. Is it better? She considered the question carefully. Her people were alive. Their children would grow up without fear of invasion or slaughter. The price was their independence, but perhaps that was a fair trade. Ask me again in 100 years, she said finally. When our grandchildren are still alive to complain about human protection, we'll know if we made the right choice. Outside, Captain O's patrol ship passed overhead, its hull gleaming with weapons that could destroy fleets. On its side, the warning message was painted in bright letters that could be seen from orbit. Harm the innocent, face extinction. The galaxy had learned to read those words in every language. More importantly, they had learned to believe them. The Deathworlders had come to the galaxy not as conquerors, but as protectors. They brought peace through the promise of absolute destruction. For anyone who threatened it, it was a cold peace, enforced by creatures who had turned the defense of the innocent into an art of war. And across the galaxy, distress calls continued to go out, always receiving the same response. Coordinates received. Deployment authorized. We are coming.